Hi everybody. So I'm going to use my regular webcam camera because I don't feel like setting up my other webcam. Sorry about that, but um, I know. Okay, I'm going to talk about the Disaster Artist. I know that movie came out in December, but I'm going to talk about it now before months fly by and I never get the chance to talk about it. Hot off the heels of winning a Golden Globe, because it did. Yeah, let's just get into it. Now, James Franco is the one that decided to come up with this adaptation of the book, a film adaptation of the book, The Disaster Artist. Let me tell you about the book. I read the book. It came out maybe 5 years ago. I'm not exactly sure when it came out. The main actor in the movie, well, first of all, yeah, he wrote this book. Him and his co-writer, um, they wrote this book, and it's based on the experience for working on the movie The Room, the cult movie The Room, because a lot of people are not going to understand nothing about the Disaster Artist if they never even heard about The Room, or if they don't know the creative ingenuity of this movie The Room. Okay. I actually have a little film, not a film. I actually filmed going to see the movie, to go see The Room in New York City. It's on my channel somewhere. Let me tell you a little bit about this movie called The Room, just so you can get some kind of understanding. Otherwise, you're just going to be completely clueless about what this all means. So, there is this very terrible movie that's earned cult status. Um, this movie came out in early 2000s. I'm not really sure exactly when. The first time I ever heard about The Room was when, well, Adult Swim played it on April Fools. Okay? I guess they played it as an April Fool's joke. But I was on the message boards and I heard people talking about it and whatnot. And they kept talking about The Room and they're like, it's playing. I'm like, I didn't quite grasp it or get it because I was watching it alone in my house. Okay? If you want to watch this movie, you can't watch it that way. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. You're not going to comprehend. Now, rewind 10 years. 10 years ago. Rewind 5 years before I even saw The Room play on Adult Swim. When I was living out in California, I was driving around with my friend, okay, and we drove past, we drove down a street. I'm not sure what street, sorry. But my friend was like, oh, you see that billboard up there? I was like, yeah. I never really listened to what my friend says because a lot of things he says it in a boring manner, so I just disregard things that he says. But he said that billboard, the guy, I know him. I was roommates. He was my roommate. No, he actually didn't tell me he was his roommate at that point. He just said that guy pays every month. He pays like $100,000 to have that billboard, you know, up there. When you're in Hollywood or out there, you can pay, if you have the money, you can pay to have a billboard of you. Google or look into Angeline. Angeline, like spelled with a Y, Angeline. She is a big, like, Hollywood, like, celebrity, but in her own right. And she had a billboard of herself, like, all throughout the 80s. Like, if you have the money or a sponsor or whatever, you can have a billboard of yourself, hanging there. And it brings people to wonder, what is this? So, anyways, later on, my friend Moss, he's the one that said he was roommates with Tom. Okay. There's this guy, he came from another country. Nobody knew where he was from. He's a very bizarre character. He was living out in Hollywood. Um, I guess during the time when he lived in Hollywood, my friend he was his roommate. And this is backed up by Tommy himself because we have went to go see The Room in in New York City. You know, the heck? Like, why is it like that? Sorry, it's weird. We went to go see The Room in New York City, and that is a very interesting experience because you bring plastic spoons with you. Well, listen, when I went to New York City with my friend, we took the subway up there. I mean, we took the bus up there. No, we drove. I don't know. Well, when we parked, he had two big black plastic bags full of these wood plastic spoons, and he wanted me to carry this spoon like I'm like Santa Claus carrying the big like bag of stuff. I was so mad at him because it was so cold. Like, why did he have to bring like two huge garbage bags full of plastic spoons? Like, why can't you just bring one little thing that's easy to carry? He's so weird, and I was so mad at him for doing that. You know, if he tried to tell me to do something like that now, I'd be like, no, hell no, you're out of your mind. You do it. I'm not carrying that. But back then, I was just like, okay, whatever. It was awful. It's on my video. But we went to the theater, and the first thing you see is people throwing around a football because there's a scene in the movie where they're throwing around footballs. And this guy, Tommy Wiseau, has so much money. He was able to make a video, like a movie production. So when you watch the movie The Disaster Artist, it's really how extravagant this guy is when it comes to the production and just things that didn't make sense. Like the book is hilarious, but you have to go see The Room. You have to go see it in New York City or when they play it. I've seen it at UCLA, like in California. You have to go see it there. And when you go see the screenings, Tommy and cast are oftentimes there. And afterwards, they're going to do a Q&A, and you can take pictures and you can talk to them and whatnot. And I met Tommy. I've taken pictures with him and the rest of the cast. I met the rest of the cast as well. And he does remember Moss, and he does remember living with him. Moss is actually mentioned somewhat in the book The Disaster Artist because he had his brother's pet snake, and it said his roommate in the book. It says not in the movie, however, but in the book it says his roommate that had a snake. Okay. When I watched the movie, they switched it around a bit and they didn't mention a snake. But the weird thing is, when I was watching the movie, um, I'm not sure if this is intentional or not, but like when they showed Tommy's apartment in Hollywood, you know what? It was the same couches that Moss, my friend Moss, yeah, Moss. Like, if you really want to Google, not even gonna go there. But yeah, he has leather worn in couches. And in the movie The Disaster Artist, like Tommy, he has the same exact leather couches as Moss has. And he also had velvet curtains. Like Moss has velvet curtains. So to me, it kind of felt like it was a nod to Moss being the roommate because when it showed Tommy Wiseau's apartment in Hollywood, naturally you're gonna think, well, I was gonna think, Moss is a roommate, but instead of talking about a snake, a pet snake or whatever, they had Moss's furniture that he has now. Like, is that like a subliminal thing or something? And I tried to tell Moss this, and he's like, lots of people have that furniture. I'm like, yeah, but I think they did it deliberately. How do they know what my furniture looks like? Maybe because like I took video of your little apartment in Hollywood and it's online. Maybe because the internet. Maybe because you can look at pictures. You could see that. He didn't want to believe it. He was like, whatever. I thought it was kind of funny. But and me and him actually, I had a spot to be an extra in this movie. Like in the movie theater part. That was where I was supposed to be, but I just at the time I could not fly out to LA to be an extra in this movie. But there's a girl that we know and her name is Shannon, and they zoom in right to her, and she's an extra in the movie right when they're doing auditions and people are outside. The girl that they zoom in on is a girl that me and Moss knows. So that's kind of interesting. um yeah, so it's like this whole movie is really based on like these crazy things that the crazy like whatever the guy goes just spends all this money to make this big production and nobody knows where he's from. I'm wondering though, like, who Tommy Wiseau, like, what is his deal, like? And he kind of looks like, you know he kind of looks like a little FTM. I don't know. They say that about James Franco too. And I also heard about James Franco and his acting school. Like I'm not gonna get into that, but yeah. So um it's just interesting. And then a friend messaged, I said somewhere that about the disaster artist and those little interesting factoids I just shared here. My friend's like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch the disaster artist." I was like, "Yeah, watch it. It's good." He said, "Oh, I understand why you like that movie." And I'm like, "Okay, why?" Because you always wanted to be an actress. That's why you went out to LA because you were trying to be an actress, and that's why you're so connected to this movie. I'm like, excuse me, no, not a, like, no, that's not why I like that movie, and no, I never moved out to LA to be an actress. Like, think you know shit that you don't know, really? No, I got upset about that. I'm like, not at all. That's not the case at all. I did live out in LA, but I didn't move there to be an actress. I did not move out there for that. I moved out there because it was. That's another story on its own. I'm gonna write about it. So, but I was not trying to be an actress. Like I really wasn't. I did go to an acting class because it was suggested for me to go to an acting class, and I do have a book about acting and stuff. But I never really went to pursue it. I never really. I'm not trying to be an actress. I'm not trying to be famous. Like I'm not going to be famous first of all because I was not born into it, and I'm also like a regular person. Like I'm a real woman. Like I just don't follow what a famous person needs. Like I don't have multiple personalities or whatever. Like you know, that's another thing to talk about. But the whole movie about the room, I mean about the disaster artist, it's really interesting. So that's all I wanted to say about that. If I'm missing any points, oh well. I feel like I've talked enough because I've just made 3 videos in a row. So I'm going to upload this. Anyways, thanks for listening.